Hello, everyone. We're happy to be back on the Psychedelic Art Exchange YouTube channel. Today, we've got a really rare assortment of posters that are all available in session one of our May mega auction. It's open now until Thursday, May 23rd, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, as always, but that's the boring stuff. So let's get to the cool stuff. We have some really unique pieces with some real cool background, a lot of stuff we've never seen before. Looks like we're starting off with this Chicago Jethro Tull piece.
Yeah, this sale is packed with a lot of regional interesting titles that rarely come up. Again, this stuff exists in much smaller quantities than the Fillmore and Avalon posters. And Chicago, especially, you would think for a town like Chicago, there would be much more of a poster scene and more surviving examples. This poster is just incredibly illustrated. It's for the Aragon Ballroom in
Mhm.
Chicago, and it's a brilliant illustration of Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull.
It is.
This is, and it's in really killer shape too.
Yeah, it's like
There's
absolutely mint.
this is a really hot poster. This guy Daniel Klein, I'm not that familiar with him. He did do a Grateful Dead poster for the Aragon as well that, has
Mhm.
sold pretty well in the past. It's very cartoony, but as far as like
Mhm.
a portrait goes, this is a banging poster. So I wanted to, start off with the Chicago
Yeah, I think there were
Jethro
like
Tull,
200 of those printed. Like it was a real low run, and that makes it even more amazing that it's in mint condition.
and it just jumps with
It
this
rules.
yellow and magenta. And so yeah, Chicago was a thing. I mean, the blues city. It was the home of Chess Records and Paul Butterfield Blues Band, and morphed into a real rock city. Anyhow,
Ooh.
Chicago, this is an another amazing Chicago piece that I pulled out again because of the illustration. It's only two color, but
I
this
love that.
yeah, it's a really good piece. It was done by Skip Williamson, who was the one of the Chicago illustrators with Jay Lynch. They
Mm.
touched on the underground comic scene. Snappy Sammy Smoot was Skip Williamson's character, and this is exaggerated caricature like stuff. But this is, and again, not available. And Al Cooper, who played with Dylan
Mhm.
and uh was it Blues Project and yeah, and the Birds. This is again, you're not going to find many of these. So
Nice. I
on
like that.
to the Cincinnati Pop Festival, and this is an
Yeah.
image that has been reused. I believe it can be attributed to Grimshaw, but I don't see the
Sure.
credit here.
Yeah, I was unable to find a credit for this one, but it sure looks like Grimshaw, the lettering and everything as
Uh,
well.
yeah, again, there's another couple posters that borrow the same image from various festivals, but this is, kind of a cool piece. And I know you've done a little bit of a deeper dive on it, so why don't you
Just
tell
a
me?
tad. Well, it turns out I guess there were two Cincinnati pop festivals that year. So this one was really successful, and even though it was on like a random Thursday in March, it there were like 12,000 people there or something. Joe Cocker missed his flight and was a no-show, and I believe the Stooges actually didn't get to play either because they ran out of time. But they did another one, a second one in the summer at the Cincinnati Reds Stadium, and that was the one that I believe the Stooges did the crazy peanut butter uh thing at, and I think they played like TBI in 1970. But this one was, I mean, from it was promoted by Russ Gibb from the Grandy and Mike Quattro, who's I think Susie Quattro's brother.
Y-
So it's very cool. I mean, there's a lot of like Midwest legends on there, like the MC5, the Amboy Dukes, and some Brits on there as well. Um, yeah, I couldn't find so much about this particular event other than the Joe Cocker thing, but it's a great
y-
poster. We've never auctioned it before.
In many cases, and except for like personal recollection, these posters are some of the most, powerful remaining historical documents of any of these events. We kind of have to go backwards from them and find out what happened and gather this information. So, anyhow,
Moving
moving
right
on.
along. We
And
staying in the Midwest.
this one we know is Gary Grimshaw, and it's
Yes,
signed by Gary Grimshaw, and Chuck Berry. Come on,
the
the king of rock
man.
and roll, doing the duck walk. I mean, it's just again powerful colors,
It's a
great design.
beautiful one. It's like boxing style almost. It's got that
Yeah,
more vintagey vibe than some of the psychedelic stuff we've been looking at.
yeah. This is a beautiful piece, and it has more of those Midwest bands, Woolies and SRC, and this was the Grandy Ballroom bands. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of which, we have one of the
Ooh,
early rare Grandies. This is by a
yeah,
guy named Donnie Dope, and it's a really good early design. Grimshaw and Carl Lundgren did a majority of the posters in the Grandy series, but this guy Danny Dope, Donnie Dope shows up early on. Yeah,
yeah.
what a
It's a great
name.
one. I think it's only showed up once before in our auctions.
Yeah, and it showed, I don't know, was it graded or was it raw? This is one of those posters, because it's a Grandy poster, is eligible for CGC grading, which is it's up to the seller, the consigner, whether they want to submit the poster for grading. And that's why you should keep an eye on our mega sales, because there are pieces that are gradable, that
Mm-hmm.
if you are into the CGC game, you might want to, take a shot on something. We try to do a good job describing the condition, and we have, a money back guarantee if you're not happy. But
Yeah,
if
we
you like,
always have CGC eligible stuff in our mega auctions, and you could even submit them for grading yourself once you get them.
and this one's so scarce that
Mm.
I don't think it really matters. I will tell you
No.
it's authentic. It's got all the age appropriate signs. So killer piece from Uncle Russ.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's see. So now I just started pulling things that were interesting to me. We never have jazz posters, and this
Yeah.
killer illustration of Sonny Rollins just made me, kind of jump. And that's a solid piece. If
Yeah, it's
you're
also from the Midwest. I believe it's an Indiana poster.
Yes, and the colors are good. It's offset. It's got a little bit of a crease going through it here, but if you're a jazz head, you know, tenor sax, Sonny Rollins, it's one of the legends.
One of the coolest.
And so moving right along to the West Coast. Ah, yeah, we're out of the Midwest
Ah.
now, and we're at the Sonoma County People's Foundation, People's Day at the Track. And again, rock and roll blues legends, BB King, Chuck Berry, and hot tuna. And again, solid design, not a common poster, really something worth taking a second look at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I bet
uh,
you picked that because of hot tuna.
well, yeah, I mean, and it's early hot, to what year is this 71
I don't know
or
off the top of
77? All
my
right, all right,
head.
forgive me, I don't have my
I
notes in
whoa,
front of
whoa,
me, but
whoa.
yeah.
I can tell you. Well, maybe not. Oh, it's
Well, shit.
1977.
Okay, it's later tuna, but yeah, they're a personal favorite of mine,
Later early tuna.
as well as the Allman Brothers. Now, this was after Dwayne's death,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, it's also got Mahavishnu on the bill. This is one of those early Capitol Theater John Scher posters. These don't come up that often. I mean,
Mm-mm.
this is Passaic, New Jersey, where there were a couple Capitol theaters. There was Portchester and
Right.
Passaic, and the Dead played here often. It was, it is now vintagey stuff. This was stuff that was happening in, yeah, my era, but this is early though. This is before my time. This is 72, I think. And it's, I mean, to see Mahavishnu would have been a great accomplishment.
Right.
John McLaughlin, Jean-Luc Ponty, just killer fusion.
Yeah, and I mean, it was that was the year that Eat a Peach came out, right?
Yes, which
And it was right
is,
between the two tragic Allman Brothers deaths.
there you have it. Eat a
That show
peach.
was actually rescheduled too. I think it was like the next month.
Really?
Um, but yeah, there you go.
Well, thank you for the
Some
fact
real
checking.
history.
All right, now I kind of want to end on, I mean, the little stuff. It's the little stuff. And
Yeah.
these kind of, there's one of these UK ticket order forms, but
Mhm.
I don't know, Dwayne Eddy and Gene Vincent on the same thing. Dwayne Eddy was responsible for a guitar sound that influenced most everybody in rock and roll. He had this twangy, sustain. I mean, yeah. I mean, Dwayne Eddy. If you don't know about him, go find out. And Gene Vincent, early rockabilly star. Compared to Elvis, great
Mm.
rockabilly stuff. But this is, this stuff gets me, man. And you
Yeah,
have the
we
Cheryl.
get those little ticket order forms from the UK from time to time, and they always have some really cool lineups on
Yeah,
them.
if you're into early rock and roll and where it all came from, you should look at this stuff. Simple design, but
Mhm.
and yeah, one of the greatest Brit bands of all times, the Kinks. There's not enough Kinks stuff. I mean, the Beatles, the Stones, the Who get all of the press, but the Kinks, all of them wanted to sound like the Kinks.
Exactly.
Right. But they got disrupted. They got interrupted because of a drug bust and they couldn't get visas to tour the States right
Right.
at a point with their trajectory but the Kinks follow their career. It's one of the most brilliant stories in rock and roll. And
I'd say
this
they're
is
probably cited as an influence by more modern musicians than any of those other bands, interestingly.
Well, interestingly enough, the Who claimed that they wanted to sound like the Kinks.
Yeah.
So there you go. And this is like Toronto.
Mhm.
There's Toronto Maple Gardens or whatever. There's a Hendrix poster from this venue that sells for a lot of money. But this is a killer condition, great design,
Yeah, great
Kinks
design.
piece. And so that's sort of my random selections from this mega sale.
Well, there
And
you have it. Yeah, I mean, we only scratched the surface here. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. We got 150 lots. Make sure you look closely. It's always a treasure hunt with the mega sales, and we get excited about them
yeah,
too.
there's a Nirvana
A
mobile
mobile.
hanger. That
Yeah.
one's, there's too much to reasonably put in this discussion.
It's
And
it's
but
true.
these are sort of Glenn's picks for the week.
Well, we appreciate you joining us and we hope that you'll bid in the auction. As always, the links are going to be right below me in the description and we'll see you at the auction. We'll be back
Thanks
next
again.
time.